Spider-Man 2 is a movie positively carried by the performance of its lead actors, in particular Alfred Molina as Dr. Octopus. In part because Alfred Molina is a great actor, but largely because the actor insisted upon shit-talking Spider-Man as much as humanly possible. So Nisha, what do you think of Alfred Molina's performance as Octopus?
It's pretty epic, I think.
It's potentially one of the best villains that Spider-Man's faced in live action. It's only been edged out by Willem Dafoe, because Willem Dafoe is just like pouring sriracha on the scenery and gnawing on it in every scene he's in.
Every time I think of Willem Dafoe, I just think of the meme Willem Defriend.
Like, don't get Willem Dafoe, Willem Defriend. That one still gets me. But like, Alfred Molina is so good because he's such a smarmy, charismatic villain. And he delivers almost every single line through the most shit-eating grin imaginable. Like, it's like, I believe you have a train to catch, and just whacks his hat on and just, whoa! Because he goes so fast when he steps off that train.
You have a train to catch.
For anyone wondering, like Alfred Molina, how did he get cast as Dr. Octopus? He auditioned for the role because he's a huge fan of Marvel Comics. He adores Marvel Comics. He's a big fan of Spider-Man in particular. And he was initially in disbelief that he'd gotten the role because he didn't think he did that well. But here's the thing, like, he loves Spider-Man, but he hadn't really read any comics with Dr. Octopus in them, if you can believe it.
Oh, right, okay.
Despite Dr. Octopus being one of the most famous villains Spider-Man has faced, he's not in every single comic, and he especially wasn't in the ones that Alfred Molina had read as a kid. And he decided to correct that by buying a big stack of Spider-Man comics featuring Dr. Octopus, and he noticed, as he was reading them, one thing, and that is that Dr. Octopus loves shit-talking Spider-Man. Specifically, Molina noticed that, in his own words, Dr. Octopus has a wonderful, kind of slightly sardonic, almost cruel sense of humour. And you can see that bleeding through into his performance. Like, I believe you have a train to catch, as he just, like, you know, leaves, like, 300 people, about to, like, barrel into the ocean at half the speed of sound. Or where he's just fighting Spider-Man and clearly loving every second of it because he's just enjoying the power he now wields.
That makes a great villain, though, when they're just, like, shit-talking and just enjoying and having a laugh. Just, they enjoy being evil.
Yeah, he's evil and he loves it. It's why Palpatine is the best part of Star Wars. Everyone always says Darth Vader's the best villain. He's not. Palpatine is, because Palpatine fucking loves it. Like, Palpatine is having so much fun in every single scene he's in. Like, when he no-scopes those 3 Jedis from the floor. He just goes like, "Aah!" Just screams to all. He had a great time. He's having so much fun.
Best way to be a villain.
It is, yeah, if you're a villain, fuck it, be a villain. Love it. And I think all the villains in the Raimi trilogy are very theatric, even the bad ones. Like Venom, it's a poor version of Venom, but you do have Topher Grace saying, I like being bad. And that's a very comic book line, because comic books aren't well written, for the most part.
I like being bad. It makes me happy.
I like being bad. And then he just dives into, like, the big Venom. Oh my god. What? Can you see the big Garfield outside?
Oh my god.
That looks so shit! There's just a big shitty Garfield going past outside. Thing is, though, we're going to have to talk about just that fight of why it's so awesome when Dr. Octopus starts whipping civilians at Spider-Man. Because he knows. It's like, you're going to have to rescue him.
Oh, it's like in the first one when Willem Dafoe, Green Goblin.
After he's been, when he's no longer Willem Defriend.
He's no longer Defriend. When he's got he's got Mary Jane in one hand and then that
an entire a cart full of people.
Oh yeah, and he's just like, you have to make a choice. Drops both, and you're like, he's gonna get both of them. It's Spider-Man.
He's going to Christ air his way across and save everyone. And then you have that bit where the, like, New Yorkers are just throwing shit at him. And he's on the glider, getting hit on the head by, like, burgers and
leave
stuff.
Spider-Man alone.
They're just throwing burgers at him. It's great.
Oh, yeah, I got some for your ass. You mess with Spider, you mess with New York. You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us.
But bringing it back to Alfred Molina's performance, after he read all the comics and noticed that Dr. Octopus had this sense of humour, that resonated really well with Molina, because people don't know, Molina is like a very funny guy. He's a big jokester on set. Like, he's a huge cut-up, he's always joking, he's always laughing. For example, one of the things he'd do to keep morale up on set, would you like during long fight scene takes and they've got to go all the sets up, he'd just tap dance and perform Fiddler on the Roof.
If I were a rich man,
Wait, what?
Yeah, he's a theatre actor, and that's what he brought into the Dr. Octopus performance. Like the theatrics of it, where he's like, swanning around like a dickhead. Thing is, though, I can see Dr. Octopus in that movie doing that.
Yeah, I can kind of imagine it, and then he just like switches to his tentacles and starts.
Oh man, tap dance on his little tentacle.
He's Nemesis feet.
And it's
God.
my favourite noise is like dog walking on laminate flooring, but I think it might be I think that could be trumped if I heard little tiny tentacle cat feet tapping on the top of a train. Just. You see, it bleeds into his performance, doesn't it? Like, he's clearly having so much fun, and the theatrical nature of Dr. Octopus is present even before he becomes a villain. Like when he's showing, like, I'm going to harness the power of the sun, but before I do that, just look at this other shit I invented. Bam! Like, look at my big octopus arms.
It is pretty intense, especially when it starts attaching itself to him. You think, it's not just like a little side experiment. This is like actually becoming a part of you.
Yeah.
Is this worrying?
It is a bit worrying, yeah, but like they have that in the SpiderMan PS4 game where Dr. Octopus is in that, and the reason he invents the tentacles is because he's trying to build prosthetics for people who've lost limbs and that sort of thing, and he realises, why would I build something that replicates a human limb when I can build something better? And he builds the tentacles. It's like, why would I need to build something that's a human? The human form is inefficient. I'm going to build some fucking tentacles.
I'm going to be an octopus.
I'm going to be an octopus, man.
That must be his favourite animal, a sea creature.
What's the thing about Spider-Man, isn't it? Almost every single one of his villains is an animal of some kind. Like the vulture, the rhino, the scorpion.
Oh, rhino.
Dr. Octopus. And then, his other villain, Kraven the Hunter, hunts dangerous animals. And then you got Venom, who's just a big, massive, black tentacly alienness. Like bringing it back once again to Alfred Molina and his performance and realising that, Dr. Octopus has a sense of humour, I have a sense of humour, that's great. And that did end up informing Raimi's direction. And one of the things they actually ended up putting in is that Molina, between takes, would talk to the puppeteers off stage because his tentacle arms were handled by puppeteers. But the puppeteers were hidden behind stuff, so he talked to the tentacles instead. And he ended up becoming very attached to the tentacles, much in the same way Dr. Octopus does. And he talked to the tentacles between takes to help the puppeteers. So they just had, more experience moving the tentacles in a realistic way.
And if at any time you ever feel, it's totally safe to touch it or play with it or anything.
And they liked the image of Molina talking to the tentacles so much they started to put that more into the film. And you have the scene where Dr. Octopus is sat there talking to his tentacles.
No, I'm not a criminal. That's right. The real crime would be not to finish what we started.
And the puppeteers eventually got really good at moving the tentacles in a very, very fine manner. And Molina himself was applauded them for how realistic and alive the tentacles feel. For example, when he's talking to his tentacles and one of them is talking to him, you can't hear it talking, but you know it's communicating with him through his spine or whatever, and it turns its head like a dog.
Oh, yeah.
And he says it felt, in that moment, it felt so alive. And for that reason, he ended up naming the tentacles.
Oh, God.
He had names for them. And for you, the names were Larry, Harry, Flo, and Mo. And the tentacle he's talking to in that particular scene is Flo, the only female tentacle.
Of course they have to rhyme.
Of course they have to. But the idea that he's just talking to his tentacles. Between takes, just tap dancing, talking to his tentacles, chatting shit, joking around with Tobey Maguire.
Oh, that sounds so fun.
It sounds like a great day. And one of the things that I like is just in interviews, Molina has talked so much about those tentacles felt so alive. I really applaud the work of the puppeteers. And it's, admittedly, watching it back when writing this article, it was really good, but I couldn't notice that on a first watch. I was just too busy watching him just whip New Yorkers at the skyline while shit-talking Spider-Man. So nearby Nisha, when we briefly touched on quotes from superhero movies, is there any that you didn't mention that you'd like to give a special shout-out to as being particularly good or bad?
I really like in Doctor Strange.
Okay.
So when he meets Mads Mikkelsen's character and he's trying to introduce himself and he's like, Mr. And then Doctor Strange goes, Doctor. It's like, Mr. Doctor.
Strange.
It's strange.
How long have you been at Kamatage, Mr. Doctor? Mr. Doctor?
It's strange.
Maybe.
Mads Mikkelsen was wasted in that role. I'm so mad that he's in that film because the fan casting was him as Doctor Doom. It was like, he'd have been an amazing Doctor Doom. Just this like vaguely Eastern European man who looks super fucking evil.
Yeah.
I can see Mads Mikkelsen swanning around in that iron armour. It's been an absolute bell end.
I also just want to mention as well, talk about Doctor Strange, there's a moment in Spider-Man 2 where Dr. Octopus has just like been realised by Jonah Jameson. And they're like, oh, what should we call him? So then his colleague is like, oh, what about Dr. Octopus? He's like, nah. Like, what about Doctor Strange?
Doctor Strange.
That's pretty good. But it's taken.
They could do that back then because Disney didn't have its hands in all the pies. Because they have loads of references like that in the Spider-Man movies. They talk about other heroes and like, you know, that wink, wink, nudge. It was like, the Lizard, my favourite Spider-Man villain, is referenced in Spider-Man 3. Because you have Kurt Connors, the guy with one arm. That's Kurt Connors. And Spider-Man 4 was going to be the Lizard. And I love the Lizard because he's just a fucking big lizard with a lab coat on. And that's it. He's just a big lizard. And I was like so excited to see Tobey Maguire fight a lizard. And then we got Andrew Garfield fight a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles ripoff, and it's just nowhere near as good. All I want is a lizard in a lab coat chatting shit. Just swinging around, it'd be great.
Oh, God.
Give me a Lizard standalone movie, that's all I want. I love the Lizard. Because he's just called the Lizard. So that's the day where J. Jonah Jameson took a day off. Like, what do you like? He even says, all these freaks have got to have names.
Yeah.
Dr. Octopus, I can rhyme that. And he just goes, what do you call this guy? The Lizard. But this what? The Rhino. This what? The Vulture. So, come on, JJ.